the biggest platform. Our panelists are some of Liberia's brightest and best political analysts from diverse backgrounds, like Vandala Patrick, Dr. Lester Zumatic Tene, Al Hussein Fadiga, Samson Brown Toole, Daniel Sando, and Eugene Lamin Fangon. Nightline Liberia begins at 8 p.m. with 60 minutes around the country, bringing you updates from LBS correspondents. Nightline Liberia's final segment kicks off with its panelists and pundits from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. as they propound on trending national issues. Nightline Liberia. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
When we work together, there's nothing we cannot overcome as a people. This is why I asked all of you representatives of our people to join me to do the business of the Liberian people by not doing business as usual. I challenge you to join me to think Liberia, love Liberia, and build Liberia.
It's Nightline Liberia every Monday to Friday beginning at 8 p.m. on Elbc Radio, 99.9 FM, and other frequencies around the country. The Department of New Media and Rebranding of the Liberia Broadcasting System presents Nightline Liberia. From the valleys of Liberia to the top of Wologisi Mountain, Nimba, Grand Kipma, River G, to the coast of Sino, Bassa, Bong, Riverses, Maryland, Margibi, Grand Cru, Bapolu, Grand Jide, and the Department of New Media and Rebranding of the Liberia Broadcasting System presents Nightline Liberia. Our panelists are some of Liberia's brightest and best political analysts from diverse backgrounds, like Vandala Patrick, Dr. Lester Zumatic Tene, the Department of New Media and Rebranding of the Liberia Broadcasting System.
Good evening, listeners, and a pleasant welcome to Nightline Liberia, a primetime show here on Elbc Radio 99.9 and other frequencies around the country. Today is the first edition, and we will be running on from 8 to 10 p.m. That is from Monday to Friday on State Radio. My panelists tonight I have on the program is Sir Eugene Fagon, Vandala Patrick, Dr. Lester Tene, Samuel Brown Toole, and D. Flo Flomo. Tonight we will be discussing the prominent issues on the program. And first of all, I want to welcome you all here tonight on our first edition of Nighttime Liberia. Some of the issues we will be discussing tonight involves the issue of the yellow machines, the Western Cluster deal, the road user permit suspended. We will be finding out whether it's a gentleman agreement, the Roberts International Airport sourcing outcome deal, what is expected, and then we wind down or we go up to the General Auditing Commission, GSC, to relate to reports ranging from 2019 to 2023. What do we expect? Another question there would be, was there a security breach during ex-president's arrival at the Roberts International Airport? These issues and much more tonight will be discussed on Nighttime Liberia with our panelists, including Eugene Fagon, Vandala Patrick, Dr. Lester Tene, Samson Brown Toole, and D. Flo.
The Department of New Media and Rebranding of the Liberia Broadcasting System presents Nightline Liberia. from the valleys of Liberia to the top of Wologisi Mountain, Nimba, Grand Cape Mount, River G, to the coast of Sino, Bassa, Bong, Riverses, Maryland, Margibi, Grand Cru, Bapolu, Grand Jide, and Monserrado. We present to you Nightline Liberia, a primetime talk show loaded with factual news, fresh information, not fiction. Nightline Liberia. We set the tune. We control the airwaves. We are the nation's pride, the biggest platform. Our panelists are some of Liberia's brightest and best political analysts from diverse backgrounds, like Vandala Patrick, Dr. Lester Zomatic Tene, Al Hussein Fadiga, Samson Brown Tour, Daniel Sando, and Eugene Lamin Fangon. Nightline Liberia begins at 8 p.m. with 60 minutes around the country, bringing you updates from LBS correspondents. Nightline Liberia's final segment kicks off with its panelists and pundits from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. as they propound on trending national issues. Nightline Liberia. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
When we work together, there's nothing we cannot overcome as a people. This is why I asked all of you, representatives of our people, to join me to do the business of the Liberian people by not doing business as usual. I challenge you to join me to think Liberia, love Liberia, and be like.
It's Nightline Liberia every Monday to Friday beginning at 8 p.m. on Elbc Radio, 99.9 FM, and other frequencies around the country.
You heard it all, and welcome to the program Nightline Liberia. Let me first of all welcome our panelists tonight. Good evening, Mr. Fagon.
Good evening. It's great to be here, and good evening to the peace-loving people of the Republic of Liberia. It's been a while since I've been behind a microphone. I don't know if I'm nervous or not, but I'm okay. But it's great to be with you tonight, and I say good evening to the peace-loving people of this country.
Awesome. Vandala Patricks, welcome.
Well, let me say good evening to the listening public. Interestingly, this is my first time at Elbc. So I don't know whether it's an adventure for me, but I think looking at the diversity of the panelists, I think it's going to be a good thing. And let me say thank you to the Director General, Honorable Eugene Facon, for creating this opportunity that we can have diversity of views. So I'm very privileged and proud to be here tonight.
Well, thank you, Vandala, for being on the show tonight, and I'm sure we have other panelists that will join us online, like Dr. Lester Tenney will be here. He will join us online, and D Flo and others will join in. But first of all, it's a pleasure having you people here as panelists on this program, and we hope to go through smoothly for the next 2 hours, and we'll be discussing trending issues. And so first of all, we will begin with the issues of the yellow machines. This has been trending around the country for some time, and we woke up to the news of the machines being in the country, and the machines were paraded around town, which of course we saw people coming from all walks of life to come and see for themselves. And I think that was a great move by the president in line with his arrest agenda. And so before we go further, a lot of people are still arguing around because obviously, you know, you have people having pros and cons about issues. So may I first begin with you? What was the intent of those yellow machines, Mr. Fagon?
Well, thank you. Again, the Constitution allows for freedom of expressions, and that's not anything anyone can trump. Regardless of the position you find yourself in, whether you work for the government, public or private sector, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you are a Liberian citizen and you are entitled to your views. And we're moving LBS towards a public broadcasting system, which means that sooner or later, the station will be owned by the Liberian people, and what they do here, the views they express and what have you, we'll be very tolerant in what we do. Let me start by saying a lot of people seem to be wanting to hear from me. They will hear from me next Monday on Elbc and Lntv on the progress we've made here. Having said that, the intent of the yellow machines, I believe, from the government was indeed to help the Liberian people in terms of the growth and development of this nation. What people don't understand is this: for too long, Liberians have suffered wherever they found themselves. Every rainy season, the Southeast was cut off from the rest of the country. How do you run a country where dry season, there is integration, there is movements, there's businesses, there is everything, reconciliation, everything taking place. And in the rainy season, everything comes to a halt. So your question is about the intent of the yellow machines. Well, what are yellow machines used for? They're used in construction, they're used in agriculture, they're used in many, many things, but mainly road construction and agriculture. And the intent of the yellow machine was to contribute to the growth and development of this nation. And now we've seen the effects. Before the yellow machine came in, the yellow machines, the Southeast has been opened up. Since the rainy season, it takes about 6 to 9 hours for people to travel from the Southeast to Monrovia. Whereas in the past, it will take them about 2 weeks on the road. Why? Because they're either stuck in the mud or they cannot get through. So we look forward, and the yellow machines weren't used to clear this road, though, that we're talking about, to the Southeast. No, they weren't using it. So their arrival brings about relief to the people in the Southeast, and they see it now as a way for them to be able to do what they have to do, especially during the rainy season, in terms of agriculture and infrastructural development relative to roads.
For that, like you just heard Eugene. And so what's your take?
Yes, I think Liberians are yearning for development. We have deplorable roads in this country. I come from Mike to be specific. Mike is not connected. Farm to market roads are not open. Like you said, I think we need to open the country. But I don't know why everybody keeps stressing on Southeast. Every sector of Liberia is challenged when it comes to road construction, road rehabilitation. Every sector, the 15 political subdivisions of the country, they are facing a lot of challenge. Well, I understand that Southeast is being heavily challenged, but when I saw on the news when citizens were jubilating, as those yellow machines were moved from Freeport, because I was on Broad Street that evening when I saw people celebrating, it reminds me that we are way back in national development. I welcome the idea as a patriotic citizen. I welcome the idea of the yellow machines coming into the country. And secondly, we also want to use this time to say thank you to the president. A lot of people from the Southeast, you mentioned, they are celebrating for the fact that the road has been opened. But during the course of the discussion, we'll give our independent position as to how we should proceed. What is the intent of this yellow machine? Is it going to be business as usual? Because when Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was president, we saw other countries, they bought yellow machines. Today, some of those machines are not operational. But the intent of the government to bring these yellow machines in the country and seeing the citizens celebrating, it speaks volume that development has been delayed in this country. And we hope His Excellency Joseph Nyuma Boaka will act in full concert with the law of morality and the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia by upholding his campaign promises, because he said, rule, 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 and rule. Thank you.
Well, just to inform our listeners, we have Dr. Lester Tinning and Thomas Goa on the line following this program, because they are some of the panelists that we have here. And so shortly you will be hearing from them interchangeably on this program as we go along. Now to this controversy still surrounding the yellow machines. There was a letter written by President Joseph Boyka to the legislature concerning the machines. And then he clarified that issue with the document being written by the president. Does that mean we have to deeper? Or just before we go along, probably I'll have to read the communication from the president so our listeners will know exactly what we are discussing. Because there are others who are still claiming that the machines were brought in the country illegally, though the president confirmed in his written document that it was a friend that gave him those machines. And so some of them are asking about the friend in question. What is the friend name? But on the other hand, others are saying that constitutionally he's right because he's the president. He has the right to go out and lobby out there. So is there a way or point that we need to deeper into such?
For me, I read a letter and I listened to the arguments. In law, you look at the intent and the desire. Yes, the legislature is concerned. Initially, there was this debate that I think 50 million was already spent, to procure the yellow machines. I think 285 stand to be corrected. But that debate did not survive, and later on we saw the yellow machines in the country. What I want to say this clear here is that it's not wrong for a president of any country to go out and lobby. And this has been, one of my positions. Apart from the president, not just the president, but what the president did should also be applied by representatives and senators, because everybody were elected on the day of election. The same mandate that was given to the president, it was given to the House of Representatives, members of the House of Representatives. So if the president goes out and come with some investment packages, it is important that members of the national legislature, they scrutinize that and see what is happening. But for me, up to this time, the debate, we got to be very clear in this country. I read a letter, the president said nothing has been paid. Fine. I don't know whether the name of the friend was disclosed, and the letter also said that the coming of the yellow machines in the country is at the expense of the business partner. I don't think that is a crime under our law. We should be raising substantial issue to know who is this individual. I don't know them. The legislature should be raising the argument, who is this person? Secondly, they should be communicating with the managing director of the Freeport of Monrovia to ascertain as to whether the coming into the country of the yellow machines were paid for by this investor, that the government of Liberia had nothing to do with that. It's almost like, what? And I think it was a mind game that the president used. That is my own assumption. That's my view. Over the past time, we've seen deals failed. Were broadcast, they were publicized, it will never come into fruition. In previous governments, under Ellen, under George Weah. So when the president talked about bringing yellow machines into the country, there was this debate about it's a lie, yellow machine will never come, and this and that. I felt, and that's why we kept quiet. So again, to play on the minds of Liberian, like business as usual, I want to do that. Say maybe this thing will be business as usual. The president, I don't know whether it's a strategy to bring it into the country so that citizens who are victims of bad road conditions, they cannot move from one point to another. They will have a clearer picture to see these yellow machines that was spoken about 2-3 months ago, that these machines are here. Go now to your lawmakers and tell them, do business with the government of Liberia. I think seeing the celebration of the citizens, I am assuming that this is a public sentiment that has gone against members of the national legislature. These people elected them. And you know what happened over there? I was a victim. 1 month to election, somebody will bring one yellow machine and just go into the community, create a role and say, oh, talk and do. And they win election just for a single day, cleaning the road, maybe the drainages. Just for a single day, people won election in this country. The man brought yellow machine, go and rent and spend maybe 2-3 hours, talk and do. So the coming of the yellow machines, I understand there are some good noise that has been, that has been made here.
Good noise.
On the other hand, it's not going well with members of the national legislature who have already on the ignorance of our people. They will never support them. They will keep the roads condition. But during election, they gave them small money, which I describe as storming infrastructure, and then carry yellow machines, grade the road for just 2-3 days, and that's the end. You will never see them again until another 6 years. So the coming into the country of yellow machines is going to create a very difficult situation for people who have used that method of campaign to ride on the ignorance of the people, cajole them to be elected. I think in my mind, the president played a very smart game. He brought a machine into the country. Mahena Isa, that my business partner, brought a machine here. If you're not lucky, we tell the man, say, take your machine back. He sponsored he paid the cost to bring it in the country. We as Liberians, we want a yellow machine. But the law say you got to go to members of the national legislature. So Liberian people, you talk to your lawmakers so they can approve the yellow machine so that the roads can be faced, because every country was promised, I'm told, 19 yellow machines will go in every country. So the people seeing the yellow machines in the country and listening to what the president has promised, and the yellow machines have arrived, is a sentiment now that has been placed on members of the national legislature, and I can guarantee you, it will have to be passed. When people celebrate, there's a saying, they say the voice of the people is the voice of God. Of course, there are some, opinions that are not in line with what others are saying. So for me, I think the president played a smart game to bring the machines into the country so we can have an opportunity to see. But the national legislature should be raising substantial issue to see, because the argument is the government finance, a pre-finance. Where are the documents? I think if I was speaker, I will write the president again to ask, Mr. President, we receive your communication, but we want further clarity. Someone, they put manager to tell us as to whether these machines were paid for. Someone, the LRA boss, to tell us as to whether these things were paid for. At the end of the day, then it becomes an issue to discuss. Thank you.
Actually jotting down points, Mr. Fagon, and I'm sure it's in relation to this entire stuff. So
Definitely.
yeah.
Definitely. And what I want to do right now, my friend said a great deal, and thank you for the recognition of the president's effort. But let me just correct, because this is what we call radio land. What you say gets out there, and that's what the people will be talking about. We need to state for the record that I don't know if we're on national television also.
Yes, we are. We are.
We
yes,
are on national television. Yeah. We're also on 99.9. And if you like some of the other substations, we know that all of our stations are up and running now, especially the ones in Lofa, Bomi, Banga, Buchanan. They're sharp as razor blade. That's what we sign up for here. Okay, so the first thing I want to just help my friend Vendela with, because he spoke brilliantly about the president's intent, is the fact that this guy is not a business friend of the president. And I'm going to quote directly from the letter, quote, "The initiative originated from conversation between me and a longtime friend who shares a commitment to the arrest agenda." A longtime friend, not a business partner. "The friend was moved by the spirit of solidarity and a strong desire to participate in the implementation in the shortest possible time of our development agenda." Because the president took over in January of this year, we know that rainy season came straight. April, we know rainy season can count April, May. So if you say I took over in January, I can't even appoint my cabinet right and straight. Then when will I start? They said, no, rainy season coming. And you know the president promised that within his first 100 days, the roads will be pliable. And Liberian took him for granted.
No car will be stuck in the
No
mud.
car will be stuck in the mud. And not a single one of the yellow machines were used on the road or are used on the road or is being used on the road as we speak. It means that the ones that were already here, he chartered them and he used them, and the roads are, quote, I'm quoting him, passable. All of them in the southeast. The next thing I want to talk about, he raised an important point. That's why we have 3 branches of government for checks and balances, okay? So he said they need to be asking NPA, did these people pay, maybe LRA, did they pay revenue? But equally so too, the government has what we call tax waivers. They also have duty-free, and they can use these mediums. But he spoke brilliantly when he said, vesting is on the legislature. Now, most of our lawmakers have got 4-wheel drives, Land Cruiser Jeeps. You know that.
Sure.
They can go places where the ordinary persons cannot go. And so it's on them. Now, the people in the Southeast, Maryland, Grand Gita, Sino, River G, they get up in the morning, they pick up their road, they are here by 5 o'clock in the evening. Never has it happened in a long time in the history of our country. Never. And that is why you don't hear people even talking about the roads. And like he said, people are jubilating. And I agree with him when he says it's not just about the Southeast. Look at Lofa. Look at Bapulu. Look at other areas. And you look at 285 machines, multiply them by the number of drivers or operators, if you call them, that's 285. Who's going to be the conductor on those yellow machines? That's another 285. Who's going to be the logistic officers and the people providing the fuel? Job creation, road connectivity, and then our bread basket will be open. What do I mean by that? It simply means that what we used to suffer for, the people grew pepper, bitter ball, all those things, could not make it to Morovia. Remember, Montserrado has over 1 million plus people. Since I came back home, I see pepper wasting in the market, bitter ball. I don't need to ask why. It's because the people now have access to the market by bringing the products from Maryland, Grand Gita, River G, River Cess. They're coming into Morovia in 6 to 8 hours. And I challenge anybody to say that's no. And that's what we've been looking for as a country. So I agree with you, Vendela. The intent of the president was good. The legislature must do due diligence, but they will not stop the progress and development of the people as we've seen from the people. I believe they will work with the people will work with the legislature, our government will come together for the growth and development of our country.
Well, listeners, this program has been live on TV tonight, and so you can tune in to view what's happening on Nightline Liberia. We have our panelists, Dr. Lester Tenney, Mr. Thomas Gore, all monitoring us. Good evening, Dr. Tenney.
Good evening, my sister. How are you?
Good evening, Dr. Tenney.
Yeah, I'm hearing you. Good evening. Good evening, everyone in studio. How are you?
Okay. Thomas is also online. Good evening, Thomas Gore.
Hello, I'm here. I'm listening. Hello to everyone. And it's good to be here.
All right. We seem to be having a little bit of issues, and so we'll get back to our panelists that are online. But we're still discussing the yellow machines here. This agreement that President Boyka talked about, or concerning his letter that he said it was an old-time friend that gave him is this agreement or bogus one, or is there an iota of corruption within that? Because I'll go back to the letter. Like at a point in time, the clarification he made at a point in time, he said he assured the legislature of doing nothing to circumvent the laws for any reason. And he maintained that should the negotiations fail to yield or mutually beneficial agreement, the supplier retains the right to reclaim the equipment.
So, like I was saying, for me, I'm interested in knowing this long-term friend. Remember, the president is the property of the Liberian people. So once he conducts the affairs of the country, nationally and internationally, we want to know every step along the way. Like I said, I welcome the idea of the yellow machines coming in the country. In fact, is beyond acceptance, because this is what Liberian people created for many years ago, to have their roads fixed, to have their roads rehabilitated. But like I said, if I was in the legislature, I won't make noise about this previous matter, whether it's bookers or not. I will ask critical questions. We want to know this good friend. Under our law, you have the right to associate, to disassociate, and the president enjoys that right. The president officially communicates to members of the national legislature that a long-term friend, for me, I'm interested in knowing who's that long-term friend. It's not bad to have a business partner. Before becoming president, he has good friends. And I'm sure these people, they might have, stood with him during the campaign. And they want to make his presidency look better in the best interest of the Liberian people. So I think it's necessary for people who are supportive of the president to develop a strategic public narrative to tell us who this good friend is. Look, they say, show me your friend, and I will tell you who you are. If we trust our president, that he's a good man, he's bringing yellow machine, which Liberian is not interested now in knowing this good friend of the president that has brought almost 50 pieces of the yellow machines into the country, and we are all celebrating? We want to know. I am interested in knowing the friend of this president for this kind of gesture given to us, trying to do business for Liberia. I am interested. Secondly, we have to be very clear. You mentioned that, yes, the government is under obligation to give people duty-free. I think if that is the case, like I said, the onus is on the members of the national legislature to go beyond. But what I see on social media, everybody writing, and let me just clarify, many of them are not happy because it's going to take away their morale. Talk and do, quick impact project. They will not support the people. They have 4 wheels. They have Toyota Hilux. They go anywhere in this country. And their people will be living in poverty. They will never leave from one point to another. During election, after they have amassed wealth of resources, they go right back. Oh, our road is not bad. I mean, it's not in good condition, and we can't leave from this place. They carry one yellow machine. Maybe they will use maybe like 1,000 to rent it for a day or two. Clean that place, open the road, just for that short time. People see them as angels, political angels, and call them talk and do. So this yellow machine, in as much as the issue of corruption is being speculated, but it's not going well with many of the lawmakers who have been elected on quick impact project. Sometimes, when you see this thing coming, for me, I want this yellow machine to come. Imagine my Gibi has about 19 yellow pieces of yellow machine, and our roads are open. The political playing field will be level. Nobody is coming to take glory now to just go down for election. They call you talk and do. So now we'll be very innovative and creative to see what else we can do. Because people are only elected who million roads. Once you face the road, you are talk and do. So I agree with the yellow machines coming into the country, and the legislature should ask more critical questions. Know the friend of the president. Tell me your friend, show me your friend, and know who you are. Let them do, because right now, I will not sit there and speculate that corruption has taken place. The president has put, let's say the boy in the court. I did not pay a dime. The man who brought it into the country, if we don't agree to buy the yellow machines, he has the right to sell it in the Liberian market or take it back. Liberian government did not pay a dime. as members of the national legislature, they should now begin to inform us through testimonial evidence that this president has lied. And as an activist, we are also investigating. But at this time, I can't sit there and conclude that what the president said is a lie. I cannot. I am depending on my 2 senators and 5 representatives in my GB to begin to launch a robust investigation to authenticate whether the letter written by the president to members of the national legislature is authentic, that nothing was paid, and that this thing, if the Liberian government does not agree, it means the man has the right to sell the yellow machines in the country. But I can tell you in closing, the yellow machines, that law will be passed. The members of the national legislature, they will pass it. I'm telling you today in confidence. If they don't pass it, their people will vote against them. Some of them are already calling on the radio. If you don't approve of these yellow machines to come in our country, to start, you know what I mean, to construct roads in your country for 6 years, I'm assuming that those machines will be used for the internal purpose. So any lawmaker who will say no, you are going to be seen as a barman. Like I said, it's a careful. The president must have clearly use public sentiment strategy by bringing the yellow machine. And you see the yellow machine, I promise you, you go talk to your lawmaker and then approve. Any lawmaker, whether he right, he not right, any lawmaker that will say, I will not sign, then there is a problem. Okay. So for me, I think we need to go beyond that to investigate as to whether what the president wrote is authentic or not, rather than just talking is corruption, is corruption. That's why I say the port money must be investigated as to whether the duty-free was given, it was paid for, or maybe LRA, someone there and ask them questions as to whether there was some economic benefit for the coming of those yellow machines into the country.
Okay. You heard it all from Vandala Patrice. We are informing our listeners this has been aired on Elbc Radio 99.9 and carried live on Lntv. We still have our panelists online, and Daniel Sano is next. Daniel, you listened to Vandala Patrice and you heard what all he said. Now, what do you know exactly about the machines? Because we understand that the second batch has arrived. Is it true or not? Daniel, are you there? Well, we seem to be getting a little problem from our panelists who are online, but we'll switch back to Mr. Fagon. You heard exactly what Vandala said, and I understand that I was at a local attire shop sometime, and I heard I don't want to call the particular name of that lawmaker that said they will resist the yellow machine coming in his district. And so others that were there said he opened a cup of worms, and there was argument at the tire shop that day. Others were saying that there's no need of resisting the machines. They have good intent, and in fact, they will welcome it in his district. And so that was something that people said. So we understand that the machines at the port, the second batch has arrived. And I'll bring that question back to you. Is it true? We want to know. Do you have any idea?
I think that was the appropriate question as to whether I have ideas as to whether the second batch, the machines have arrived. Before I say that, there are lots of people watching us in television land and radio land. It's important that we've informed you that we are on our maiden edition of Nightline Africa. We're testing tonight the waters of being able to have such a program both on television and on radio, where our contributors can be brought in from all around the entire globe. And that is if you are in the United States, you are in Europe, or maybe you are in Asia. We want to be able to bring you in into the studio And so the problem we're having is not with our video right now. The problem we're having right now is with our audio being connected to our video for our viewers in TV land and our people in radio land. So bear with us. I told you LBS will not be the same, and we are determined to make sure that that happens. Having said that, let's go back to the discussion. Again, Vendela struck a point, and you just raised another issue of whether it's corruption or whether is some form of circumventing the law. I don't think it's neither of both. Here is what it is. You talk about, let's look at corruption in the first place. The president made it clear that, and I'm quoting him, this friend, quote, this friend was moved by the spirit of solidarity. Solidarity meaning he was with me. Okay? And he said, quote, and a strong desire to participate in the implementation in the shortest possible time of our development agenda, unquote. So this friend was moved. No foul, no gain. There can only be foul if you have a gain. This friend said, look, I want to participate in your agenda, and I want to do so as fast as possible. Let me help you. It was described as a gentleman agreement, and I'm sure all of my colleagues here know what a gentleman agreement is. That's not where you put pen to paper. It's like, Fabi, can you send me full stuff? When we get stuff going, we can make things happen, you know. That is, if I have to pay for it, we'll go through the legislature. Or if I have to do something, I'll need to get some machines. Oh, go ahead, use the machines. Get your work done. Maybe when I'm done, when you're done with your work, send my machines back. Or I will send a machine to you. You don't have to pay me. Or when you're done with my machine, clean it up nicely. It could be anything. Now I'm not going to speculate. But was there any foul play? No. Was there any act of corruption? No. And like the gentleman said at the Atai shop, we will resist. Vendela has laid the groundwork for you to understand. I will go for a particular lawmaker in Nimba. He used a couple of yellow machines. He built roads and all of that stuff. When he was done, what happened? He got elected. Okay? And he's the only guy there in that area with yellow machines. Should it be that way? I beg to differ. No. It is the responsibility under the social contract and construct with the government. It is the government duty to honor that social contract with its people. And individuals have taken onto that contract and bought it onto themselves. Get elected, but do not pursue the government's agenda. Remember, the government is not one branch. It's 3 branches. And at the end of the day, it is the government's duty to perform. That it is not performing or it has not been performing. So if Satai president comes in and say, look, a friend say, I'll borrow you some machine. You told your people, say, look, the roads will be passable. Or I'll give you some machine, whatever the agreement was. The Liberian people are now passing on the roads that were never passable before. The Liberian people are now having plantain, cassava, pepper, and bitter ball brought from all the way Sano to Morovia in 8 hours. And that's what the people wanted. And so, was there any act of corruption? Not proving yet. Is there any foul play? Not seen. So again, it's up to the people. The people have told their lawmakers what they wanted. They elected a president that is on the path to delivery, and that's what we're going to have. That's what we have, I believe. That is my opinion.
Mr. Sando, Daniel Sando, welcome.
Thank you, Fabian.
It's good to have you here again.
Thank you for having me on the media edition of the Nightline Bureau show.
I'm sure you've been following some of the discussions we've been having concerning
very religiously
these yellow machines. And you heard Mr. Fagon made mention about that gentleman agreement. Prior to him saying that, Vandala came in and said, as an activist, they really want to know who that friend is. And so, do you think it's necessary at this time to actually let the president disclose the name of whoever that gave him those machines?
Well, negotiation has stages. If preliminary engagement that led to the coming of the F moving equipment into the country were initiated by a longtime friend who shares the vision of the president to address the country age-old problem of barrel condition. The president, like he rightly informed the legislature in his communication, he stated that negotiation are still ongoing. So by the time that negotiation is consummated, it would have left from the level of that personal friend to an agreement between the government of Liberia and whoever the supplier is. So what I think we should be thinking on is to contemplate on the intentions of the president. What his intentions are very clear. He's a president who is result oriented. He wants to address this country problem of barrel condition. And so the details about some of the questions that people are asking, even after the president wrote that 2-page communication to the legislature, the details of this entire negotiation, when consummated, will be submitted to the legislature, that is the direct representative of the people. And then now the question they're asking who they friend and this, that, they would know who the suppliers are and everything. But until these conversations can be concluded and consummated, and we now have an agreement between the supplier and the government of Liberia that will require legislative ratification, I do not think some of the questions are being asked in good faith. And I will agree with Vendela that some of these people are so apprehensive for political reasons. Like I said the other day I was here, there are 3 groups of people who were engaged into public conversation who value over the coming into the country of the yellow machines. One group of Liberians are surprised that the president, in a relatively short period of time, has taken this tremendous step to addressing the perennial problem of barrel condition. Another group of Liberians are people who are so consumed with this political mentality. They do not want anything good to happen under the leadership of President Baraka because their preferred candidate didn't win the election. These are people that are referred to as the disciple of bad news. And so, even if the president wrote a 10-page communication detailing all of these things, they will say, oh, why you do the one for? Why you do the one first? But the relevant question that members of the legislature were asking, in fact, they accused the president of usurping the legislative authority of the state. And the president has said, no, I have no intention to do so. Yeah, my intentions are, when we reach at a point where we should submit this agreement to you for ratification, we will do so. So the intentions of the president are made clear in the communication. But these people, because they are so consumed with this crab mentality that the country should not make progress, nothing good should happen because they are killing, they didn't win the election. So they are bent on doing everything they can to put a spin on the very good news about the arrival of the yellow machine. That's why we as a government, we have said, we're not going to buy into the petty talks around the yellow machine. The president has an intention that has been validated by virtue of the action that he's taking, and we are happy as a country. The conversation we're having right now about the developmental progress of the country, if we took a mental flight back in 2018, what were we discussing by this time? The former president had built 46 condominiums for himself. He had bought a private jet, which is still rise up to now. He had demolished his personal property around the country. He has failed to declare his asset and publish his asset. These were the conversations we're having. But today, we are having the national conversation about the developmental drive of the country, the progress the country has made in just almost 5 months. You see, the entire southeastern region is now connected. It's possible, the roads, everything in good condition. People giving testimony every day on the radio that, look, I can now take 4 hours from Ganta, Nema County, to Riwaji, right? And the Minister of Public Works is clear that these interventions are clearly based on the president's intention for the country. And so Yes, the political people can be there raising all of these irrelevant issues, but we are focused on developing the country, and those are the steps the president is taking right now.
Thank you, Daniel Sando. For now, we take a break to take the news at 9, and when we come back,
The Department of New Media and Rebranding of the Liberia Broadcasting System presents Nightline Liberia. From the valleys of Liberia to the top of Wologisi Mountain, Nimba, Grand Kipma, River G, to the coast of Sino, Bassa, Bong, Riverses, Maryland, Margibi, Grand Cru, Bapolu, Grand Jide, and Monserrado. We present to you Nightline Liberia, a primetime talk show loaded with factual news, fresh information, not fiction. Nightline Liberia. We set the tune. We control the airwaves. We are the nation's pride, the biggest platform. Our panelists are some of Liberia's brightest and best political analysts from diverse backgrounds, like Vandela Patrick, Dr. Lester Zomatic Tene, Al Hussein Fadiga, Samson Brown Toole, Daniel Sando, and Eugene Lamin Fangon.
Good evening, Elbc News Bulletin. I'm William Etzer Chaba. In the headlines, the Supreme Court to entertain legal arguments between state prosecutors and lawyers representing jailed former Chief Justice Gloria Musu-Scott and 3 others this Tuesday. Several ambassadors destined to Liberia present letters of credence to former Foreign Minister Sarah Bess Loyanti. Joint Security in Nimba County investigates private security officer for impersonation and forced recruitment of AFL and police officers. In the Gambia, lawmakers reject a bill seeking to overturn 2015 ban on female genital mutilation, FGM. Those were the headlines. Now the news in detail. The Supreme Court is expected to entertain legal arguments between state prosecutors and lawyers representing jailed former Chief Justice Gloria Musu-Scott and 3 family members this Tuesday. It followed an appeal prayed for by the defense team representing Councillor Gloria Musu-Scott and 3 others. Councillor Scott, Gertrude Newton, Alice Johnson, yet the Wisner were found guilty last December for murdering Chala Musu at their Bannersville residence in February 2023 by trial jurors at Criminal Court A. Tuesday's argument before the full bench would see defense arguing their case to legally convince the full bench of the Supreme Court that their clients did not commit the crime. At the same time, state prosecutors are also expected to maintain their stance that the murder convicts committed the crime. Convicts Gloria Musu-Scott, Gertrude Newton, Alice Johnson, and Ude Wisner have been imprisoned since June 2023 and sentenced to life by Criminal Court A. Several ambassadors destined to Liberia have presented copies of their letters of credence to Foreign Minister Sarah Bess Loyanti. The presentation of their documents to Minister Yanti is ahead of the official presentation to President Joseph Boakai. The incoming ambassadors destined are from Namibia, Burundi, Czech Republic, Indonesia, Australia, and Saudi Arabia. A foreign ministry release says the official presentation of their letters of credence to President Joseph Boakai will formalize their status as ambassadors extraordinary and plenipotentiary to Liberia. Meanwhile, Foreign Minister Sarah Bess Loyanti has described the arrival of the ambassadors designate as a testament to the enduring partnerships and shared values between Liberia and their nations. Madam Yanti emphasized the importance of diplomatic relations and international cooperation, highlighting Liberia's commitment to fostering strong bilateral ties with their respective countries. The chief Liberian diplomat said she is optimistic that the new ambassadors could contribute significantly to the enhancement of diplomatic, economic, and cultural relations. She assured the ambassadors designate of her ministry's full support and cooperation in their endeavors to strengthen mutual ties and achieve common goals. Minister Yanti acknowledged the qualifications and experiences of the ambassadors designate and expressed confidence in their ability to foster robust diplomatic engagements with Liberia. Agents of the National Security Agency are said to be investigating an officer of the VIP security network in Nema County for allegedly impersonating as an AFL soldier. According to our correspondent, Frederick Walker was arrested recently from a local guest house in Ganta, where he was carrying out a purported recruitment for AFL. Our correspondent said Mr. Walker was also allegedly recruiting for the Police Emergency Response Unit ERU and the Police Support Unit PSU. According to our correspondent, the 52-year-old is the Deputy Training Director for a local private security firm known as VIP Security Network in Peaceville. Following the conclusion of the investigation, Mr. Walker will be sent to a regional security hub in Bangabon County for further action. The Liberia Land Authority, in partnership with civil society organization Working Group, is conducting a 3-day training on land rights law in Monrovia. The initiative, held under the theme Strengthening Partnership with Members of the Legislature, is intended to enhance implementation of the land rights laws. Speaking at the start of the training, Land Authority Project Director Danlela Gray Johnson described the training as crucial to land reforms across the country. Madam Gray Johnson also called for strong collaboration with other stakeholders in the land sector to make it more responsive and viable. In remarks, the Grand Jide County Representative Jacob Darby pledged legislative support to address overwhelming challenges at the Land Authority. You are listening to a bulletin of news on ELBC. The managing director of the National Housing Authority has called for an amendment of the NHA Act of 1960. Madam Florence Jigwe said such move will strengthen institutional capacity and arm the NHA with the requisite policy framework that will enhance the housing sector. According to Madam Jigbe, the current housing policy and regulatory framework is very weak and cannot deliver world standard affordable housing on a sustained basis. She said the National Housing Authority needs regulatory powers to adequately control housing development in Liberia. Speaking on the 50-50 talk show in Monrovia recently, the new NHA boss stressed that regulating housing designs and development is the surest way of bringing the sector up to international standards. At the same time, NHA Managing Director has spoken of plans to build standard homes for Liberians. Madam Jigbe says she is engaging investors and has already reached MOUs with a few of them to help develop the housing sector. She added that the plan is to construct smart cities that provide affordable homes for low-income, middle-income, and high-income earners. Madam Jiwe said massive investment in the sector will address the huge and unending need for affordable housing in Liberia. The chairperson of the Office of Ombudsman, Councillor Finlay Kanga, has assured full implementation and adherence to the Code of Conduct. Councillor Kanga said the Office of Ombudsman has started drafting guidelines to be printed in an official gazette by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He told Elbc Monday that raising awareness about the Code of Conduct is essential to reducing the rate of violation. Councillor Finlay Kanga said the setting up of an Office of Ombudsman to oversee implementation and adherence has removed the self-regulated framework that existed in the past. The Sano County detachment of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency has demolished several ghettos in Greenville. According to our correspondent, the exercise was carried out with the assistance of community dwellers. No arrest was made during the exercise. Meanwhile, LDEA Commander Milton Howard said the agency will continue the exercise to other parts of the county, urging residents to cooperate. And away from Liberia, the Gambia's lawmakers have rejected a bill seeking to overturn a 2015 ban on female genital mutilation (FGM). Speaking of Parliament, Fabakary Janta said a majority of MPs had voted against the bill even before its third and final reading due later this month. Human rights groups and the UN had urged MPs to block the bill, which was introduced in March after pressure from some Muslim clerics. The Gambia is among the 10 countries with the highest rates of FGM, with 73% of women and girls aged 15 to 45 having undergone the procedure. So in the news, a recap of the headlines. The Supreme Court to entertain legal arguments between state prosecutors and lawyers representing jailed former Chief Justice Gloria Musu Scott and 3 others this Tuesday. Several ambassadors destined to Liberia present letters of credence to Foreign Minister Sarah Besloyanti. Joint Security in Nema County investigates private security officer for impersonation and forced recruitment of AFL and police officers. In the Gambia, lawmakers reject a bill seeking to overturn 2015 ban on female genital mutilation (FGM). That's Elbc.
The Department of New Media and Rebranding of the Liberia Broadcasting System presents Nightline Liberia. From the valleys of Liberia to the top of Wologisi Mountain, Nimba, Grand Kipmau, River G, to the coast of Sino, Bassa, Bong, Riverses, Maryland, Margibi, Grand Cru, Bapolu, Grand Jide, and Monserrado. We present to you Nightline Liberia, a primetime talk show loaded with factual news, fresh information, not fiction. Nightline Liberia. We set the tune. We control the airwaves. We are the nation's pride, the biggest platform. Our panelists are some of Liberia's brightest and best political analysts from diverse backgrounds, like Vandela Patrick, Dr. Lester Zomatic Tene, Al Hussein Fadiga, Sansin Brown Tour, Daniel Sando, and Eugene Lamin Fangon. Nightline Liberia begins at 8 p.m. with 60 minutes around the country, bringing you updates from LBS correspondents. Nightline Liberia's final segment kicks off with its panelists and pundits from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. as they propound on trending national issues. Nightline.
You've just listened to the news bulletin on ELBC Radio and is on Nightline Liberia. That's a regular feature here on the program. And so, listeners, we continue with Nightline Liberia on ELBC Radio 99.9 and also on Lntv. My name is Fabienne Quia, and I'm here along with my moderators here in studio live with Eugene Fagon, Vandalak Patrice, and Daniel Sando. Welcome back after the break. Well, we go back to our next topic, and we will be discussing the Roberts International Airport security outsourcing. And I feel this topic tonight, we have a lot of information to be heard concerning a security breach and what have you. And sometimes we will go back to other things that have happened at the Roberts International Airport. So to begin with this Roberts International Airport security outsourcing, what is expected after all?
What is suspected?
What is expected here?
Well, I don't know what the details are concerning this report of the outsourcing of the airport's security. What I can say is that when I serve as Deputy Minister for Press and Public Affairs, this situation occurred involving a company that had, I think, an Arab background or so. And there was a whole big hula baloo about the whole thing. So this is not the first time I've heard the situation of the Roberts International Airport security being outsourced. But let us not forget, we have the chief of security at the Roberts International Airport. And that's they have a low security unit there. The issue is normally when people talk about this issue, they don't talk about it in detail. And that, what am I saying? You have the Roberts International Airport security team, but sometimes you talk about these cargo handling, how they search bags and what they do on the plane. And sometimes there are contract security agencies or companies that will come in and say, look, we can scan luggages, we can check for drugs, we can do all these good things. And I'm not going to speculate here. I don't know a lot about it, but there is need for modern security measures at our airport. I repeat, there is a need for modern security measures at our airport. And that is as much as I can say, because I don't think the domestic airport security officers are equipped enough to deal with the present day reality of airport security management.
So, Daniel, you've listened to Eugene Fagon. You listened to Eugene Fagon giving his stance on the outsourcing, security outsourcing at the Roberts International Airport. And you are from the Ministry of Information, Deputy Minister for Public Affairs. And so we expect you to elaborate on that. So he laughed.
We have to set the record straight. I have not been confirmed in my new role as Deputy Minister.
Oh, you have not been confirmed, but you are working.
Prior to my nomination by the President, I was already serving as Deputy Minister for Technical Affairs at the Ministry of Information.
So that means you can still speak to it.
You can still speak to it.
Still working.
That's why I say still working. Yeah,
the people still paying.
And I'm treating you.
That's better. I'm treating you right.
So, but the matching position.
but yeah, here's what I want to say. Like the DG said, the details of what you're talking about may not be available to us, so we can speak to it in detail. But what we can speak to is a need for improvement in the management of our various facilities around the country. Part of the problem we have here is that central government in our own country is compelled to do everything. When you go to other countries that are making progress, these things are outsourced, which makes it very effective, right? So I think given the complexity of problems that we have faced with our airport, part of the time, some international flights were canceled. They couldn't come to Liberia because of the condition of the airport. If there were no electricity, there was problem with the runway and what have you. So the aviation sector is the most regulated sector around the world, and we have to fit within that system. So, I mean, outsourcing the security architecture of the airport may sound strange, but I think it's the way forward, because when you look at other countries that are making progress around the world, you realize that these things are outsourced. It makes it very effective in terms of service delivery. The airport is one place that we all look, up to create an impression for those who are entering the country. We only have a single international airport. The last time we checked, dangerous substances were being transported into the country through the port. That because of security breach. We have to take this in seriously. The way we manage our airport, the way we manage our port of entry, says a lot about our country. Okay, I mean, the fact that the Rabos International Airport is the only airport that we have as a country, we have to improve the standard of service delivery, and that goes beyond just outsourcing the security architecture of the airport. Even when it comes to cargo management and everything, we have to be at an appreciable standard that people can be very comfortable and convenient in doing business for our country.
So a country like ours, without an airline of our own, we don't have one in the country, and that is something that we all are aware of. Will we continue to run on life supports in and out, like for example, with flights from other countries like Kenya Airways, ISCA, Brussels, and what have you?
Fabian, a house was never built in a day's time. It takes process.
But that's been a very long time
we
coming.
Agree. We have had bad leaderships in this country. Remember, before the war, Liberia had, I think, Air Liberia. I stand to be corrected. There was no war. Imagine if we are now fought the war. I think by now we have had like 3 to 5 airlines. Kenya is a progressive country. The leaders prioritize the interests of the people first. While these people were developing their countries, we were here killing people, using them will sort of be developed in our minds. So when the war came to an unprecedented end in 2003, we expected that the perpetrators of the war were being persecuted to set this government, the country, in a right trajectory. We did not. Regretfully, we rewarded some of them, and some of them are still making decisions for their victims. Business should not be as usual. I agree with the Deputy Minister and the Director General. What I would like to propose, there's nothing wrong with outsourcing. I spent some time in the US. I visited other countries. The airports are not, handled by the government. They outsource that. Private companies or institutions run the airport. In fact, they have airport securities that are not of federal government. You understand? So once it comes to Liberia, I would suggest that since His Excellency Joseph Yuma Boaka has rule of law in his arrest agenda, there must be public hearings. If we want to outsource, it is imperative that we have public hearings as to whether it's necessary or not. This is the only country I see members of the national legislature and some of our policy makers, they already know everything. In the United States, they call people, they sit with them and solicit views. So it's important that we have public hearings so as to seek the opinions of other people to show as to whether outsourcing the airport is good at this time, even if we should outsource, whether it is going to be public-private partnership or not. But I think outsourcing is good. We don't have the capacity and technical know-how to use certain equipment. Every time people complain, no pay, and the airport where people are complaining of lack of pay, anything can enter there. So outsourcing is good, but we need to have public hearings so that those companies, we want to know which company is coming to take over the airport. From which, because mind you, we have our Fatana Allah, whether we like it or not. Technically, the RIA is strategically, by our Fatana Allah, the United States. The other time they brought in, a Jordan company, they are associated with all kind of thing. The post said no. So if we do it, let's have public hearings so that the records will go good, so the mistakes in the past will not be repeated.
One of Fabian, before you move ahead, it may sound new to our country, but one of the very effective examples that we will frequently reference in terms of private-public partnership currently in Liberia is the JEP. The way they manage the electricity sector in Nimba, very effective, because it alleviates government of the burden. A government is, for example, if government in Nimba is responsible to generate electricity, and the JEP does the transmission and distribution of the electricity, which is good. It's better monitor, it's very effective and everything. So, I mean, we have to transition beyond this stage where central government is responsible to do everything. The government provide water, provide electricity. When you outsource this thing, then the government is only left with supervisory role, which makes it very effective. Okay, the airport, as it is currently constituted, like you said, the the management of the airport is a problem.
Mhm.
The past government had very serious problem with that, which kind of create a problem, national security problem for us. It has to be managed in a way that we can be able to have a fair appreciation of the level of investment we made in the airport, right? It has to be managed in a way that we can make improvement to meet international standard. That's how you build the profile of the country. But not to be going the vicious cycle every time they say, oh, government responsible to do this. How can you have the only airport in the country going out of electricity? I mean, why if a plane will come in emergency landing? Do you know the kind of damage you're going to cause? Like I said, the aviation sector is the most regulated sector in terms of transport. So there's no room for mistake. And you have an airport where there will be no electricity, the runway is not correct, plane can land, and you have airplane going back. I mean, major airlines at Delta had to, cancel flight to Liberia because of the problems we have at our airport. So we have to be very mindful how we do it. We do it in a way that people, will begin to trust our country. I'm told the reason why the last contract attempt to outsource the cargo management at the airport didn't materialize because there were national security concerns, which I don't want to go into. But if we manage it in a way that our international partners are convenient with the people that have been managing cargo at the airport, there's no reason why we shouldn't do it.
So, Mr. Fagon, I'm bringing this question to you on the outsourcing of the Roberts International Airport. So, what are some of the techniques and methods you think will be used to protect the staffers, aircrafts, and passengers from harm, just in case the airport is being outsourced?
No, I don't think the airport will be outsourced. I think the security
rather.
part of the airport will
Sorry,
be
the security rather.
because I know that means that Vendela County, you finish taking whole airport out of the brother will have the brother will have serious exception.
Yeah.
Because but I think the impact is both ways.
How?
When I say both ways, in terms of who stands to benefit. In a situation of public-private partnership, you're looking at the public, you're looking at the private partnership. It creates jobs. The people that are there are usually absorbed by the incoming security group. They may not be at strategic locations, but that company that is coming in is responsible or will be responsible to retrain those people. That's one. Two, you saw what happened at our airport. Kush was coming in, what they call the other drugs, smuggle items, and what have you. People losing their baggages, people losing the items out of their bags. I don't think the Liberian people wants that. No. And planes would only fly to an airport that is secure. Because at the end of the day, if I'm going to fly Brussels and my suitcases are not delivered, Brussels has to pay for it.
Sure.
And then that makes them run away. So it's for us to benefit in terms of people, government, just members of the public, however way you put it. And then you look at the private sector creating jobs, as well as being in the business of paying their taxes and generating revenue. So I think it's both ways. It's a win-win situation. However, it depends the mechanism used. What do I mean by that? If you have 50 security officers right now at RIA, and you bring in a foreign company or a private company, and they decide not to absorb the 50 officers that are there currently, what's going to happen? It means you're creating an atmosphere for unemployment. Unemployment will lead to our people not happy, our people being jobless. It could lead to crime. It could lead to untold hardship, sufferings, and what have you. So the mechanism used, as he said, rightfully, public hearings. Don't bring in a maybe quote unquote foreign company that's going to say we're responsible for your security. We'll not hire any Liberians. We'll just do our job.
And that would be bad.
It depends on what they will be charging. If they charge astronomically, it means that airfares will go up because the government will be forced to tax that to the airlines. And the airlines will have to make their profit. So they will tax it to the passengers. So it's both ways. But in all, we stand to benefit as a nation, as a people. Every way you consider it, it's a win-win situation.
So in terms of services and operational functions, what do we expect to be brought on the table?
Well, services.
Yes, services and operational functions.
Yeah, operational functions. Let's start with services. If you are a security company hired to take care of the security of our international airport, we expect nothing but standards. 1. 2, don't come and tell us that you're going to be scanning bags with your eyes. We're looking for guns. We're looking for sharp objects. We're looking for pins and what have you. And for you to come up and tell us, say, look, our security will look in the bag. No, you should have modern equipments. You should have metal detectors that are used to determine whether a person is carrying guns on their body. Something like a scanner that is X-ray that our suitcases will go through and come out. You should be able to have sniffing dogs. There's going to be sniffing in for what? Bombs and drugs. All of those things will form part of what it takes for us to say in terms of services, great services. Operational stuff. Don't be, I wanted to say something because when I serve as Deputy Minister for Press and Public Affairs, there's these small cars at the airport. They're white. They're normally used to haul the buggy that will bring the suitcases. If you ever travel, you see these small cars. They look like marching bars. Then they have the ones that can sometimes push the plane from the tire end. They were beautifully sprayed, and I'm giving you real, true information. They were beautifully sprayed, and all of the writings, everything, when you see them, like they were functional. But when we got to the airport, none of them were functional. The whole thing was fake. I hope that's not the case today. Since my return, I haven't been back there. But it was fake. And when you see it, you'll say, Liberia got one of the best airports. No, not true. I'll give you a second example. We had the fire trucks to the airport, right? The fire truck you saw looking good like that was not functional. Anytime there was small thing at the airport, it was the fire truck for LPRC or in town that went down there. These were some of the things that looked good, but was very bad. So in terms of the operations, we expect them to have the equipments necessary and that those equipments should be fully functional.
Fadala, what do you foresee in terms of benefits?
I think I live my notice, like 20 minutes walk from where I live to the airport. I grew up there. And if you look at the historic nature of Rabos International Airport, I think during World War II, when that airport was constructed, I think it's strategic, looking at the central location. Liberia can be made a hub. The Rabos International Airport can be made a hub. But like I said, bad leadership in the past led us to where we are today. Public hearings, and I'm proposing public hearing will be the best alternative. You invite experts from different walks of life in Liberia and outside. The Rabos International Airport will go and make a case. What are their challenges? Why are they trying to outsource? In the first place, Rabos International Airport is risky. All the security people are being in and out. You don't have any of them in the terminal with weapons. You don't. There's no airport in the US. Other countries that I've been to, at the airport, you see every security personnel, airport security has gone. You remember during the days when shooting were all over various airports? Many flights were not coming here. These people observe our terminal. You see people walking around with baton, very disorganized at some point. Sometimes you get scared. Besides, when you leave from here to go to the United States or Canada, They will check you properly.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know your criminal history. We don't want to see people coming from other parts of the world, commit murder, come in this country, just walk because you appear different, will allow you to go in. You have to be properly screened. When you are screened, we want to know whether the passport you have is legit. The third thing about the Rabas International Airport is that in other countries, like when you get to the airport, they have car rental. And this is why public hearings are necessary. If we try to outsource certain functions of the airport, let's have public hearings for the first time. You know why we can create a lot of jobs. Look at the restaurant at the airport. The last time I checked, it said it was owned by a foreigner. All Liberians saw. I went to Ghana, I went to Kenya. I didn't see anybody other than Kenyans and Ghanaians running the show within the terminal. But in this country, I think we are not just disrespected, we are not being prioritized. If we outsource certain activities at the airport, should be spearheaded by Liberians. He talks about drugs coming into the country. You know, a drama took place one time, I think 2022. I came, everybody came from SM Brussels, walking, just saw this guy, just, the security, yes. No, security went for him and brought him outside. So I followed. Oh, you got to go. I said, no, this man can go like that. I'm not going through that run. I want to see your boss. It was a drama. And the guy, too, apparently, it was the first time in the country. And we had to go back, walk through the process. And guess what? His passport was expired.
Probably that's why he wanted to walk
scot-free. No, but our own people went for them. So for me, I think I don't want to believe the argument that we don't have the capacity, we don't have the manpower. If that is the issue where we don't have manpower who are trained to manage the airport, let's train them. You can send them for study 2-3 years, they will come back. They are not going to run away. Let's look at, international institutions to send them. Look, if the president of Liberia just takes a pen to write about 10 of those international airline companies or maybe civil aviation or aviation or schools or agencies around the world, that Liberia has a challenge, or the managing director of the airport or the LCAA, and just communicate. These people will agree. They will train our people and they will come back and serve this country over a period of time. We can take over. We can outsource. How many years? They say 3 years. They say 5 years. After 5 years, we will build the capacity of our people. Then while they are leaving, we can take over, we manage it by ourselves. Okay. So for me, I think it's good. Like he said, most of the time when new companies come, when they outsource, the people that are there, they will pay them off. That's wrong. And this is why public hearing is good. When members of the national legislature, they will ask this company, now that you are coming to take certain function of the airport, are you going to maintain the workforce or are you going to lay them off? So these are things that we want to evolve. And public hearings will give us a better opportunity to seek input from other people and see how we can proceed.
So shortly, we will be opening the lines for people to call in on issues that we discussed earlier, especially about the yellow machines and then the Roberts International Airport. So Daniel Sano, I'm coming back to you. What do you make of the proposal by Vandala Patrice concerning the sourcing of the Roberts International Airport security?
Talking about public hearing.
So you agree for public hearing or not?
Talking about public hearing, I really do believe that it will help to inform the decision of the government as to how to proceed with any such engagement. The legislature has always been that body that will apply a great deal of wisdom and understanding before committing the country to any such negotiation or what have you. But I think for the most part, I agree with Vendela that we have to take into consideration, if not a long-term, but a medium-term plan to say, for example, what is a gap, what is a problem that we have with managing these, critical facilities in the country. If it is about the manpower, the human resource capacity of the people that are there, they're not up to standard. Do we devise a plan to say, for example, we want to send X number of person out of the country to be trained in these areas to manage airport and everything? Those are medium term plan that we could devise as a country. Identify the source of funding. If it is through bilateral negotiations, the executive can do it, but we have to, bear in mind that there is the need for improvement in this critical sector of the country. And so, yes, public hearing, the legislature will be good to further inform the decision of the government. But I would want to place emphasis on, manpower development, providing training opportunities for people who work in that area, and that's how you build your country. Because if you outsource the security management of the port to a private company, if it is Liberian owned, that's fine. If it is not Liberian owned, if they meet the standard of the bid that will be, opened by the PPCC in line with PPCC compliance, it will be good. But if it is a foreign company, do they bring the money that they get from that negotiation back into the country? No. But if it is managed by Liberians, and I have no doubt they are trained Liberian security professionals, right? But can they do the recruitment in a way that it reflects 100% Liberians approach? Those are concerns. Do we have the trained people to work at the port, at the airport? These are things that we have to consider. So yes, public hearing is one step, but we have to be able to say we want to train these people for the long-term approach. We want to train these people so that when they come back, they can be able to manage a facility. It goes across every sector. How many medical doctors do we have? How many people do we send out of the country? When the president took over, one of the first things he did in his 100-day deliverable was to provide the funding for foreign students that were outside. His government didn't inherit. They didn't create that debt burden, but he saw it as an obligation, because when they go out there and acquire knowledge, skills, and education, they have to come back home to serve. So we have to do it across every sector. That's how we can build the human resource capacity of our country to compete with people at the international level.
Well, listeners, you're listening to Nightline Liberia on ELBC Radio 99.9 and live on Lntv. Tonight, my panelists in the studio are Honorable Eugene Fagon Vandala Patricks and Daniel Sando and Soto. From part of this program, you can call on this number 0770186368. 0770186368 to form part of this discussion tonight. And earlier on, we talked about the arrival of the yellow machines in the country, coupled with the communication written by President Joseph Boyka to the National Legislature. And then we are discussing the Roberts International Airport security sourcing. And so I think I have my first caller on the line. Good evening. Tell us what's your name and where are you calling from? This is who?
My name is David Kaba.
So what do you make of the issues we discussed earlier concerning the yellow machines and the Roberts International Airport security sourcing?
Thank you very much. Let me first start by commending the Mr. Facon and his team. Industry is very important for the rescue mission, very important in this country. The show we like to inform us as rescue soldiers and we are part of the inner support in terms of the government achievement. And I like the analysis. I like the way we have come on the show and provide opinions on critical issues of our country. But let me speak to the yellow machine. The machine issue is very important in this country. Why? Elizabeth Mandela, it was a clear attempt by the government, by the president, and the government to bring the performing about the show. They follow the machine, they paraded the machine from the port to the 3C barrage. It tells you how Liberians are very intelligent, equal to see this machine in rural countries carry on development that is there. And Daniel said something, and lawmakers will use their personal money to buy machines to fill roads, and then they be lettered on the basis of the roads. So what the government has decided to make sure that machines machines are being used in the broad countries for development purposes, I think it's important. Let me go to the issue of the port. It's important that Edison also some of these port. But I agree with Fundada that these contracts or these issues should be done on public hearing. Because public hearing will inform us as Liberians as to how contracts coming in, how we sign those contracts, and how Liberians are going to benefit from those contracts. So I agree with Fundada. Seriously, it is important that our lawmakers and our senators take note that the government also should agree with Fundada point issue of anything, making sure that contracts be anything done with public hearing. Thank you so much for the show. It's important we make sure we'll be a regular for all the show because we support this resolution, we support our to make sure that the president is able. Thank you so much.
Thank you, caller. Hello?
Hello.
Hello, what's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Akim Gondo and I call from Seneca, Nimba County.
30 seconds each. Go to the issues.
Let me say thanks to the entire management team, especially to Honorable Eugene Fagon for the level of work done at the LBS. And then, like what Patrick said, the issue of outsourcing is good, but I think it is appropriate enough to look for a competent Liberian company that will be able to provide those securities so that every fund that will receive, also they can even leave with our people that will be doing work along the line. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you. Good evening, caller. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Thank you. Let me say pleasant good evening. Good evening to Eugene and Daniel. My name is Hussein. I am Hussein Keu. I call from around Jacobtown in District 2.
30 seconds.
I appreciate your studio guests or your partners. Unless in the past we did not see, officials of government, more especially the communication arm of the government, people active and very effective as compared to the way our brothers have started on that path. Bravo to the both of you for the path you're taking. In regards to the yellow machine, you didn't want to call or mention the name of the lawmaker, but I would do so. Musa Pedete was the one who said he will not take this machine to his district. Now, this is what I told some of my friends. It is very good and important that lawmaker check it executive. But you should have the moral standing. Musa Pedete was barred for even witnessing locally due to corruption. You want to question a government, a responsible government of ours, then you must be joking. You see? So for me, the president has not found any law. This is why he even acknowledged the legislature being part of it. He said when it's appropriate, we will communicate with you. So,
hello, caller. What's your name and where are you calling from? 30 seconds.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, what's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm Joseph calling from Kogola Farkas.
Let's hear you.
I'm Joseph calling from Kogola Farkas.
Let's hear you, Joseph.
Yeah, I want to tell you thank you for this show. But yeah, I want to tell you thank you for this show.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Hello.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
This is William Problem. I'm calling from Jonesville.
Go ahead. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, caller. What's your name and where are you calling from?
This is Roland Brooklyn. I'm calling from Johnsonville.
Go ahead. Let's hear you.
Yeah, I want to make a point on the yellow machine concerning our president.
30 seconds, please.
I want to congratulate our president on the yellow machine.
Go ahead.
Listen to yourself.
Okay. Firstly, hello.
Go ahead. Hello, caller. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me? Go ahead, caller. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Lawrence Family. I'm calling you from New Georgia, Granville.
Go ahead, Lawrence.
Well, I'm following the show. We need to commend the government for the machine. We are citizens, especially from Grand Kilburn County. Our plan is, if you go against the yellow machine, you go against your re-election. It's very clear. You see, since Grand Kilburn County, Rawalsport, the Commonwealth District was founded, there have been no quota, no paved road from Medina Junction to Rawalsport. There have been effort being made that have not been coming into fruition. Now we are seeing the kind of idea, the plan towards the pavement of that road, that touristic site that you can drive from here 1 hour, 30 minutes and go to Rawalsport and come back. That will grow our county. And then somebody say they want to be a hindrance to the progress of that district or the county. We say against that. We welcome the process. Other you to say in the past, no, the people stole the money, they blew in the country, so we accept it. We are saying the issue of the machine, we welcome it, we accept it, we agree upon it. Anyone who stand on the way of development, we will reject you when it comes to 2029. Thank you, Elvis.
Thank you. And so we've just listened to several callers that called giving their views concerning the yellow machines and then the outsourcing of security at the Roberts International Airport. I'll begin with you, Honorable Fagon. You've just listened to them.
Well, thank you again for having me tonight. I don't know if we're closing. Are we closing up? Okay. So one of the things I wanted to hopefully discuss tonight, you talk about the Roberts International Airport. I just like to deviate a little bit because it was troubling for me on the arrival of the former president, His Excellency President George Manuel Weah, and some of the comments we heard before his arrival was quite disturbing. And, that prompted others to come back the next day and ask, why did we deploy the armed forces of Liberia to the airport? Why did we, as in, the people of Liberia, not, government? I'm not speaking for the government PR team, but why did we have military people at the airport? Why did the police show up? We're on national radio. We're on national television. What do you expect the government to do when you go on Facebook and say, if the president does not use the VIP lounge, there will be no airport? What do you expect the government to do? And besides, let's go to the second part. The arrival of the former president. You expect the government to leave his security to you guys that are in the crowd, thousands of you, hundreds of you? And people need to understand.
Was there a security breach?
Well, the idea was not about the security breach. It was our airport. A huge crowd had assembled to our airport. So we needed security for what we call crowd control. If you allow a crowd to bash into the airport, what becomes of the runway? What becomes of the VIP rooms? What becomes of the airport terminal itself? What becomes of the passengers arriving on other aircrafts? Mm-hmm. So when you make those kind of incendiary statements, then the government must be proactive. It is the only international airport we have. Make no mistake. And nobody's going to trade it because of politics. Now, let's go back to what happened in the United States the last couple of hours.
Mm-hmm.
A former president, an attempt was made to assassinate him. So what's wrong with the government of Liberia providing security for you, the very citizens that are either coming in or going to the airport to receive the president or your family? What's wrong with the government providing maximum security for the former president? What's wrong with the government making sure that the airport facility is safe? Only people with evil plans can say the presence of security was unnecessary. With a crowd like that, then of course, the motive behind your statements is also what prompted the necessity of the government responding. The government did what the government had to do because of its social contract to the people. The government is responsible for the security of the state. And that means everyone within the state. And so It's good that we're talking about the Roberts International Airport. I thought to chip that in with respect to outsourcing of the security. Now, what will they say tomorrow if the people in charge of the security of the airport says we're going to do it our way? Why did the government outsource? The only people that will worry about securities are lawbreakers, because lawmakers will make the laws, but the enforcers of the law are friends of the people. If we allow everybody to break the law, then we have a chaotic nation.
A lawless one too.
A lawless one. Therefore, those people are our friends. And when we see them and we got no bad intention, they should be our friends. But you cannot sit there, Fabi, and tell me armed robbers like police. You cannot tell me that a rapist like army officers or police. You cannot tell me that those who carry out acts of vandalism, arson, okay, and other intolerable crimes love law enforcement. So the people that are frowning on the presence of security at the airport are those who intended harm and evil. When it comes to the issue of the VIP lounge, you know, Fabian, I must say this to the Liberian people. Ma Ellen is still alive. She's here, right?
Sure.
Why don't we hear all this hula baloo when Ma Ellen leaves and come back in the country? Why must it be just this one president? A former president? Why was it not like that with Joseph Numa Boakai? Why? There can only be, and I stand to be corrected by nobody, there can only be one president at a time.
But some people feel being ex-president, one should be given preferential treatment.
So preferential treatment, I'm coming, in what context? We have two VIP lounge.
As a former president.
Yes, we have two VIP lounge, or lounges if you want, right? There is one for VIP, and there is one that is the presidential VIP lounge. Now, when they say VIP, what does that mean? Very important personality. He's very important. Therefore, he gets to use the VIP. What the presidential lounge is kept for the president. Now, Ma Ellen doesn't have that problem. She led this nation for 12 years. The next president is for 6 years. I'm not sure he does have the problem. It is the people. I have now heard President Weah say, I must use the presidential lounge. Have you heard him say that?
No.
Have you heard him say that I was denied using the presidential lounge? No. When people that support somebody says something, we need to deal with them from that angle and not have either a transfer aggression or a transfer intolerance towards that person. And I think President Weah have not come up to say, it's my right to use it. No, it is his people. And they need to understand that there's a difference between the presidential lounge and the VIP. And every time President Weah came in, he was allowed to use the VIP and he was accorded VIP treatment. And I think people need to learn that. Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is still alive today. She is still traveling. Does she have that problem? No.
Don't think so.
And I don't think President Weah has the problem either. And the people that are pushing these lines of divisiveness in terms of sowing seeds of discord between the presidents need to stop. And I think I needed to say that tonight, that there can only be one president. And that president uses the presidential VIP lounge. When another president visits this place, that's where they're going to sit. And when the president sits in that chair, you see the executive flag and you see the what? The Liberian flag. Those seats are reserved for the president and his guests.
So quickly, Fabian, you see, I don't know why this debate about, usage of the airport in a strategic way has become an issue. Like I say, I grew up in Small Notice, Unification Town now, as it's been called. The first presidential lounge, I'm told, I saw a new one honor, President George Weah. He constructed a new one. The first one was constructed in 1999. for the VIP. That was my first vacation job when Taylor was president in this country. At that time, I just graduated from high school, and that was it. I remember Taylor was going to Taiwan, and there was no place to sit. And the airport was not as standardized as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, it was at that moment he thought that there must be a presidential lounge for him when he's traveling. At least he will not embarrass the other passengers in the terminal. You know, during those days, the ATU, once Taylor was traveling, you will stay outside, you as a passenger. So they thought to construct that presidential lounge. We have to be honest. I think the government needs to manage its public narrative clearly. I would suggest that the Minister of State communicate with the president, not the president or the standard bearer of all opposition political leaders in this country, former presidents. The presidential launch is used by law, only 5 persons. The president, sitting vice president, sitting speaker, sitting Senate pro tem, and sitting chief justice. Other than these 5 persons, no one is allowed to use the presidential launch. If the government is in power and you are a former president, they allow you to use the presidential launch. It means they have chosen to relax the law to allow you use it. That is the law. You can go to Rabas International Airport and verify. Now they have the VIP section for people who travel first class in other airports. That's why I say our airport, we need to do better. If you pay for first class at the airport, anywhere at the airport, they have the VIP area. Because you sit there, when everybody board a plane, you are the last to go there, you get in. When the plane lands, you are the first to get outside and car will pick you up. So like he said, they have presidential and they have VIP. So this issue about, people going, and the justification is not about, you can, of course, the government is in charge of security. I want opposition political leaders to understand that the government is in charge. Anything happen to any political leader at that Rabas International
Government
Airport,
will be held responsible.
at the same time, it is imperative that the government communicates clearly, saying this thing has been going over and over, communicate and make it clear. The law is the law. If you want to come, you want to use the presidential VIP, it is the discretion of the president, sitting president of the government, to decide as to whether you can use it or not. So the law is the law. On the issue of the yellow machines, I think the people are happy.
You listen to the callers.
It's not about listening. I have been going around. I've been to Nimba. I've been to this place, Bonkante. And the other day I was in Grand Pastor during the Sunday retreat, and this discussion is ongoing. The people are resolved. Like I said, it's the mind game. I don't know what strategy this president used. Over the past, promises were made, but they were not fulfilled. We did not see Air Liberia, we did not see this, we did not see that. This president, in my mind, that's my assumption. He said, maybe I will bring these yellow machines in the country, let the people see it, and then I will write the national legislature asking them to approve it. If they say no, I'll wash my hand and tell the people, I brought a machine, I didn't want to be a liar, I brought it in the country, but I all lawmaker, you listen to the other guy in Grand Kema. If that's the same thing I'm saying, I've been a victim of that. During election, people come with yellow machine, they use it for only 1 day, sometimes 2-3 hours. They call you talk and do. And they will never use that yellow machine until 6 years. They go by again, they do another rule. So they're coming into the country of the yellow machines. That shows that business will not be as usual. So if you talk about going to go clean the road, maybe the government finish grade our road, build bridges. So the debate now will be different. You got to be innovative and creative. So the debate is not just about corruption, but it will stop other people from getting elected. My only concern is we don't want business to be as usual. Our president, His Excellency Joseph Nyuma Boaka, must tell all his friends, We want to know his friend.
So you are curious.
So what's he say, my friend Avendela?
I would denounce that I'm not the one. But you know what? When former President Weah came to power, we saw him flying first flag. Plane will land. Our airport will say, but who gave you the plane? Said, I'm my friend. We don't want to run business on the basis of friendship. The intent is good. Like I said, this deal will pass. We are just having an intellectual argument. But believe me, from now to August, it will be history. This deal is going to pass because you can't cry more than they bereaved. The people who are crying with one yellow machines, you can't tell them, say you know more than they give you the power to go there and say approve. They don't care whether the cat is white or black. As long as it can catch a mouse, they are happy. So I
Thank
think
you for
that's my concluding point.
Daniel, let's hear you.
Fabian, let me say thanks to the previous speaker. A lot has been said, but let me just conclude by saying the level of violence, political violence that we witnessed in this country over the last 6 years cannot continue. When people have dissenting view against the government, they target you. We saw what happened July 26th that year when an innocent student from the University of Liberia was brutalized at the point of death. Today, he has to be living in exile. There were many incidents of violence. Professional trained auditors died. Nothing came out of it. So when you have a government that is saying that we are responsible for the peace and stability of the country, you can't have one group of people believing that they are law unto themselves, even when the army that has distinguished itself beyond all reasonable doubt, you see the army on the airport and you breach the army checkpoint and you see them pushing the armed forces personnel, it doesn't show any respect. Just 5 months ago, President Weah was president of the country. Are they saying now that they don't trust the people in the armed forces? Has the new government recruited anybody in the police? No. So it is a dangerous trend which we have to condemn in the strongest terms possible. Mm-hmm. And we as a government, we cannot shy away from our responsibility that we have a duty to protect the lives of every Liberian citizen. The president, the former president, is a political leader. Mm-hmm. If you have his supporters saying that when they go on the airport, if they don't gain the VIP lodge, there will be no airport, did you expect the government to sit until they go to run the airport down, giving a history? We know these people. And that's why the other day I said they are just where they belong. They are just where they belong. Nobody is going to entrust them with leadership in this country because the 6 years we gave them to improve the livelihood of the Liberian people, they abandon it. And I'm going to insist that a very big line of dichotomy has been drawn between our government and their government. I can assure you that no auditor is going to die here in 6 years. No ex-general will call press conference to threaten political activism. It's not going to happen. Not when President Bouaga is president of the country.
Okay.
You see now that people who were silent, who could not talk, who were very laissez-faire in managing the civil society affairs, they're now speaking out. Why are they speaking out? They're speaking out because a responsible government is in charge of the leadership of the country. The issue of the airport, I listened to Vendela, he said the government has not been pointed in communicating the message. No, that's not true. We've said that the former president is not entitled to usage of the VIP or the presidential lodge on the airport. If he's traveling to the country, there has to be proper coordination. The airport does not run the VIP lodge there. It is run by the Ministry of State. The last incident that I saw lawmakers on Capitol Hill from the CDC citing the airport authority to go to account for. The explanation was clear. And when they themselves cited the airport authority, the people went there, they said, but Finabono called and said the former president was not using the VIP lodge. We specifically asked him, is he using the VIP lodge? He said no. He will use the main terminal because he wants to interact with the partisans that have gone there to see him out of the country. Another favor they asked was that his private jet will come into the country, right? They requested the airport authority to receive the jet and park it in a position where he will come there. The plane landed on the airport. They provided him the van for the VIP, and the van drove him to the plane. He didn't request usage of the VIP lodge, and that request was turned down. It is not true. It is not true. So we have said that the former president has to manage himself in a way that he can be above the political fray. You can be the former president of the country and you got people mismanaging your activities and try to present a distorted picture of the facts. It is absolutely wrong. You can now understand why they mismanaged the country in 6 years. Because just to manage the little affairs of the former president, they cannot do it. Okay, so the fact remains that he was not denied usage of the VIP lodge at the airport. The next thing, they came out to say he was deprived security. It's not true. When the EPS boss spoke, he said, we gave him a specific number of persons. He said the number was not sufficient. What is the former president wouldn't do with 35 EPA officer? Okay, when former president former President Blaga was here, how many EPA officers he had? If you want to have 50 men behind you, you can hire private security. But the state is on an obligation to protect you, and they do believe that the number of men they assign to you can guarantee your safety. So, as a government, we cannot be distracted by the minor and loose talk coming from the opposition. We're very committed to doing the work. The yellow machines will arrive into the country. The first batch have arrived. The second batch have arrived. They will come when the agreement is consummated. It will be submitted to the legislature according to be ratified. The president is committed to doing things that past leader fails to do. That's why he was elected, to deliver on the dividend of democracy to the Liberian people.
Thank you, Daniel.
You're most welcome.
Thank you, Daniel. If you just listened to our panelists on the program Nightline Liberia, tomorrow we will be back here with more trending issues. And then you can tune in to ELBC 99.9 and also live on Lntv with the show Nightline Liberia. Video moderator Fabian Kuya, along with our panelists, Honorable Eugene Fagon, Mr.
The Department of New Media and Rebranding of the Liberia Broadcasting System presents Nightline Liberia. From the valleys of Liberia to the top of Wologisi Mountain, Nimba, Grand Cape Mount, River G, to the coast of Sino, Bassa,